Apparently, I'm not great at sharing the blanket, or so my husband tells me. I do not have proof that this is true, that I don't share the blanket, but occasionally I feel a tugging on the very tight cocoon I have carefully wrapped around myself. It is very annoying, this tugging. Anyway, at each of our annual covenanting gatherings, our worship design team leads us in an activity that helps us think a little bit about what it means to covenant at FaithWorks. So last year, you might remember the giant dot-to-dots that were here. There were 3 of them for each of the 3 parts of our covenant. This year, we're creating a quilt, as you will see behind me here. And the obvious metaphor is that we as individuals or families are the pieces that come together to create our community. We are beautifully unique, and we bring our different personalities and gifts, understandings of God to build something bigger than ourselves, something hopefully useful in our world. So the teaching time tonight is going to happen in 2 parts with a song in between and the quilting activity at the end. Part 2 is going to be a little bit shorter because we want to hear from you. So we're going to do what we do in summer, open up the floor for some conversation, and we'll have a roving mic. We'll call it a Q&A. And if this immediately is raising your blood pressure and you're like, I'm not talking in a group like this, that is okay. There's no pressure. You are participating by listening. But anyway, that's why the second part will be a bit shorter. So my sense, having been here at FaithWorks for 10 years now, is that FaithWorks is like a beautiful quilt. All our colors and designs are welcome. We all have a place here, and every one of us is essential in making FaithWorks what it is. And just as God is Trinitarian togetherness, Father, Son, and Spirit, we reflect the beauty of God in our togetherness. We are united in our love for God and for one another, in our desire to follow Jesus, in our reliance on the Spirit to make us loving people. And though we do not agree on every theological point or biblical interpretation, we respect each other enough to make room for difference. We have different perspectives represented on our teaching team. We have different views that we share in our book studies. We have different worship style preferences and different ways of praying. And all of it is welcome here because we know that we're all doing our best with our limited human resources and understanding, and that God honors our efforts and holds us together. As a faith community, we have gone through some things. We started as a small church plant of 12 people in 2002, and in the first 2 years, we grew to about 100. And in those early years, we were a little bit nomadic. We were traveling. Well, we met in different locations and moved based on growth and rental conditions changing. We eventually ended up here at CMU, and we've been here for quite a while. Right from the beginning, we did not want to own a church building. We did buy an office space and enjoyed that for some years, but we always wanted to be free for relationships and service and not tied down by mortgages. God was faithful in all the moves and the growth and the change. Then the pandemic hit. And I feel like we've talked about that a bit as the pandemic was ending and the masks were coming off, but don't you feel like we still haven't processed this huge collective trauma? As I was writing this, I'm like, that was a big thing. And do you remember the first Easter on Zoom when we tried to keep our flowering of the cross tradition going, and how did we get it? We sent from the office a cross that we could color flowers on it, right? And then the second Easter, we had a drive-by flowering of the cross outside our office. It was incredible. It was such a hard time, but there were some beautiful, beautiful moments as well. We struggled financially. Our office reno was bumpier than we had planned for sure. Some people left and other people came. But when the masks were no longer needed, we looked around and breathed, literally, a sigh of relief that we had survived. And then we took on a big conversation about LGBTQ plus inclusion in the church, and that was something. And here we are, an affirming church where leadership roles and marriage vows are not limited to people who are straight. We made a great change, and I'm really proud of us. God has been faithful, and I love how God has shaped us, and I love who we've become and are becoming. And one of the highlights of my FaithWorks year is the newcomers' coffee that's coming up. We typically go around the circle, and if people are comfortable, they share why they're drawn to FaithWorks. And the things we hear year after year resonate with what we've heard from longer timers. It's about community that feels real, honest, authentic. It's about welcome and inclusivity and acceptance no matter where we are on the journey. It's the lack of pressure, the soft landing place, the willingness to do things differently. It's communion every other week, which for many of us hasn't been what we grew up with and is a wonderful change. It's music and art and biblical teaching. It's having fun together. It's playing games and sharing meals and making space for loud and lively children. It's friendship, and it's Saturday nights. It's how we look after each other, how we bring meals after a big surgery or the loss of someone. We don't just small talk over coffee. We ask each other about what matters, about our kids and our jobs and our health and all the things. We dig into spiritual questions, especially at those book studies and our summer gatherings. And I know we all take a little bit of a break from church. I do too in summer, but those summer gatherings are amazing because they're smaller and they're more intimate, and it's easier to share our real faith struggles and questions. And there's food every week, and the food's just gotten better year to year. I have to say, there was a time it was like bread and cheese and pickles, and that was kind of it. Anyway, we dig deep in the regular year as well, and I guess it looks a little more like listening and reflecting. So hopefully, if questions come up during the teaching times, you're talking about them with your friends and family, or at least writing them in your journals if you journal. So we take care of each other, but we also take care of ourselves. We don't expect others to do our spiritual work for us, and that's why we sign the covenant, even as we know we're probably going to struggle with a commitment. The first part of the covenant is about our personal spiritual disciplines. We commit to the practice. We reflect on how our life honors God, or doesn't, and we work at making changes when we need to. We thank God for the gifts we've been given, and we share them with other people. And then the second part of the covenant is very similar to that, but the context is this faith community. So we attend and participate and serve and give and pray and try to work out our conflicts in healthy ways. The third part of the covenant is about the world beyond us, and I'm going to save that part for teaching time number 2, part 2. Part 2 is about sharing the blanket, actually, and part 1 is about becoming the blanket. I believe that because we are intentional with our personal and communal practices, we have become and are becoming a beautiful, warm, healing blanket. So many times over the years, I've heard people express gratitude for the safety that they experience in this community. Safety to ask questions and express doubts and heal from past church trauma and simply be themselves. I think there really is a spirit of grace and acceptance in this community that is unfortunately rare. This is the blanket that we're becoming and have become. So next Saturday, we're going to officially begin a new teaching series called Becoming, and it is not a book study on Michelle Obama. Many of us have gone through or are going, I have that book in my library, I quite like it, but we're not doing that. Many of us have gone through or are going through a season of deconstruction, rethinking some of the beliefs and practices that we have held and participated in the past. Deconstruction is about questions and struggles and doubts, and often feels like grief or loss. And we definitely need space for that. It's a very healthy part of our spiritual development, and it shouldn't be rushed. That said, we also need reconstruction. If we no longer believe what we once believed, what do we believe now? How might we move forward? How might we grow? And how might we stand up after being bent down? Who are we becoming? I believe the reason we're able to reconstruct, the reason we are able to become anything beautiful at all, is because of the Spirit of God alive in us, and because we have experienced the unconditional love of God through each other. This is why we've been able to create the blanket that is FaithWorks, because we've been loved. Paul's letter to the Ephesian church includes this prayer. It might be familiar to some of you. For this reason, I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth takes its name. I pray that, according to the riches of his glory, he may grant that you may be strengthened in your inner being with power through his Spirit, and that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, as you are being rooted and grounded in love. I pray that you may have the power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. And then Paul ends with this doxology. Now to him who by the power at work within us is able to accomplish abundantly far more than all we ask or imagine, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus to all generations forever and ever. Amen. I see FaithWorks in this prayer. I believe we have been strengthened in our inner being as individuals and as a community. I believe Christ does dwell in our hearts through faith, and we are rooted and grounded in love. I believe we're learning to comprehend with all the saints the breadth and length and height and depth of Christ's love, the love that surpasses knowledge, the love that moves from head to heart, bodily experience. I believe that we're being filled with all the fullness of God, and that God is doing in us way more than we could ask or imagine. So there's a lot to celebrate. We're going to sing together and then come to part 2.